My connection with this building, the Unitarian Meeting House, begins a long time ago, approximately 88 years ago. I was born a few hundred yards away from this meeting house, and therefore growing up in its shadow, part of my playground and my future life all revolved around this meeting house. And as I got older, I became more concerned with the meeting house. And it worried me at one time that I heard it may become demolished. And I think at that point I'd made a decision that I would get involved in its care, for which I did. I talked it over with another old chap, and I decided that what was left of the meeting house, I would be there. And from that day onward, I have always tried to work hard to see that it survived with a little help from me. Forefathers or aunties and uncles had always had an association with it. And when I learnt what they had done in the past, I became very proud of them. For all of them had not only worked for the meeting house, but had suffered for it in the past. And the reason they'd suffered for it was because of one simple thing. They were classed as non-believers, but their belief in humanity, to me, was greater than some people who were very religious, because the Unitarians had all made great efforts, one way or the other, to do one thing: to improve the welfare of other people. As for my aunties and uncles, they, pre-Victorian age, their principles, their ideals, their work was totally different than mine. They had suffered more than me, but they had been my benefactors, and I'm very proud of them. I believe their family and associations with the Unitarianism and the area of Newcastle go back at least 300 years. Once upon a time there were 5 wells in Newcastle. They were the only water source, except a brook that ran nearby, the Lyme brook. And the nearest wells to the Unitarian, one was called the Sunday Wells, and one in the churchyard. People were not allowed to use the Sunday well except on the Sabbath to keep it clean. My aunties told me about the days when a great disaster struck Newcastle, which is the cholera epidemic, and the stories were horrific. All the truth of the cholera epidemic has never been told. People deposited bodies up and down places where you would not expect to find a dead body. And it was decided that they should have a mass burial of bodies. And the sad thing is, of course, where was the bodies to go? There was no cemetery in them days. It was called the graveyard. And alas, as some people may know or not know in history, there was a vast population of Irish people, Catholics, who were subject to the cholera. And the bodies were wrapped in sackclothing. A pit was dug near to the church, and without any ceremony, I believe the bodies were buried, covered in lime. And no memorial service, nothing was held for them. No names in some cases were put on them. And they still, I believe, still lie there. And their only crime was they were poor. And they were named as paupers of the borough. And I hope one day, if they are disturbed, some of the religious men of the diocese will pay homage to them. It would be a blessing for them and for the good name of Newcastle. The heritage of the Unitarian building has changed very little in my time. As when I was young, of course, there was differences outside the building which were very strange. I didn't understand them. I didn't learn about these things until my aunties told me when I got older what they were all about. There was a little lean-to at the end of the building here, which you can see upon the west side. And it was referred to as the closet. And of course, what the closet was, it was a toilet, of course, of some fashion, merely a drain system. And that was for ladies only. And because the Unitarians had a right of way through the churchyard as a penance for what they had done in the past and harmed the Unitarians, which they now felt guilty of. They granted them a right of way and built them a gate as they could enter the centre of the town from the Unitarian without going the long way around, for which we've always appreciated. But the building at the end, called the closet, they offered them the privilege, the ladies of the church, if they needed the toilet, it was available to them. I never knew where the men went. I'll leave you to guess where the graveyard was. But that's another story. But after the fire, which destroyed the Unitarian meeting house, there was a sum of money delegated to them from the diocese for the rebuilding. And another sum of money was obtained to build a caretaker's house, which I'm afraid when I was a boy destroyed the view on one side of this building. And when it was knocked down and removed, I came along here on my cycle one day for the first time and saw another view of it, for which I have pictures and I'm very proud of it. Some of the other parts of the heritage of the meeting house that I regretted happening was when the Wesleyan Chapel in King Street, in Brunswick Street, was destroyed, or the demolition contractors took it over. The pews were taken from there, some of them, 12 of them I believe, and put into the Unitarian meeting house. And they were the most uncomfortable things that you could ever imagine. Before, it had been a stack of chairs and some forms when I was a boy. And sometimes when I used to look at the pews, the more I looked at them, the more I disliked them. But they have been removed, and I'm very happy to see that we might get the Unitarian to be a place where it used to be a kind of meeting house for which we can enjoy. According to my great aunties, of course, the meeting house, which they were benefactors to as well, had a pipe rack. I believe the pipe rack would have 2 sets of pipes, top and bottom, and they special pipes with bowls with tobacco in would be for funerals and other occasions for which they would celebrate. There was a table with a white bowl and a large jug, which was possibly a christening jug, but they called it the blessing water. For children couldn't be christened there. It was not allowed. You couldn't get married there. It was not allowed. So they gave blessings. And one of the jugs passed down right to my mother. And there are little shadows on the side, moulded in. I regret where they've all gone. I wasn't old enough in them days to save them. I would like to see some of the things that we had in the past brought back into service here. I know it's like saying it's a museum, but it is a chapter in the lifetime of our forefathers, and we shouldn't forget them. I appreciate them. One of the things that happened during the war, of course, I cannot speak for the First World War, but I can for the Second. The same place became an abode for dancing and entertainment and singing. And one of my old mates who was in Burma, is still alive today, come to a dance here just at the beginning of his military service, met a lady, married her, and always remembers coming back to here at times. But my mother had brought me here as a boy, young man, and my other brothers, and what we arrived here for that day was a bit of an exception. Food parcels were arriving from America and Australia, and distribution centres were set up. And from here, the parcels went out. And of course, the people here knew personally the people who were going to get the parcels. If you didn't have an identity, and you had an identity card, which was issued to you during the war, and that was you on your identity card and you got a parcel. And if you come with nothing, no way would you get one. Because some people would leave here and go to the Salvation Army and get one. So there had to be a system. I always remember my mother at home, going home, and we were eager to get the box open. And when we got the box open, they were all tins. And I picked a tin up and looked at it. My mother had got some tins, and I said to Arthur, my brother, "Oh, is it a funny, nice tin?" He said, "Why, what's up, Frank?" I said, "It's a tin, and it says it's a tin of marmalade. Who'd put jam in a tin?" After the war, I paid little attention for a while to the Unitarian. And it wasn't till the 1950s I began to look at it again in detail. because it became a little political corner. And one of the disturbing things I'm told, it had a large congregation at that time, but it vanished. All sorts of things were said about why they'd left the congregation, but I did make an acquaintance with one of the chaps which I was told about. He was a Cambridge fellow, and he was always the leader of the congregation, but he insisted on wearing a cap and gown and a pile of books, and my mother said he was talking down to the wrong people. He showed that he was too high and not low. And what happens? Your congregation leave. And from then on, this place was in serious trouble. And then, of course, I realised the end of 59, 60s, to pay it a little more attention. And it took me a long while to make my mind up to join them again. Which I hope my aunties and my mother and my grandfather and all others would have liked me to have done. And I have done it. I'm still here at 88.